And this was the turning point in my life because we want them to be happy and celebrate the whole process of learning. Who I am because the whole team is about what we all are together helps me to transform myself into another world. Books are great companions.
Hello and a very warm welcome to Great Principles. I am Seema Choria. With an aim to create future-ready students, our guest today, Ms. Gunjan Shrivastava, Principal, the Orbis School, Mundwa, has stressed on a well-balanced educational experience throughout her career spanning over 20 years. Her career kicked off as a teacher in mathematics, science and computers at just one modern school in Dehradun. Over the years, she spent significant tenures at different schools in different cities and skilled herself in evaluating needs and developing student-focused teaching strategies to achieve results. She has been actively involved in planning and organizing extracurricular activities throughout her career as a part of a well-balanced educational approach. Her efforts paid off when the Orbis School Mundwa was awarded the #1 school in actively promoting sports in 2019-20 and Innovative Learning School. She is recipient of Principal Par Excellence Award by IIHM, Best Principal by Science Olympiad Foundation, and Exceptional School Leader by AKS Worldwide Private Limited. We are proud to welcome Ms. Gunjan Shrivastava, Principal, the Orbis School, Mundwa, Pune. Welcome to Great Principles, ma'am. It's an honor to have you here.
Thank you, Seema. The pleasure is mine. And a very good morning to everybody who's watching us.
So, ma'am, we would begin by first knowing something about you and your career in education.
So, I come from a family where my mother was working in the education department for education of girl child, and she served in the Garhwal region, which is now in Uttarakhand, and that's where my passion for school teaching and learning began. Um, at my senior secondary school level only, I started, taking care of my younger siblings' education, and we had many neighborhood children who would come to me for help in science and maths. So this was an indication for me that I should take up teaching, and I enjoyed teaching all these children. And therefore, I took up a part-time job while I was still in college. And now I was working for a school, and from there, it all began. So this peer teaching my friends, and the part-time job that I took up, that gave me a lot of experience and confidence. By the virtue of my husband being into a transferable job, I got an exposure of working with some of the best schools in the country. And I could now appreciate the diversity in schools. There were different ideologies and different ways of working. So by the time, I had an experience of 10 years or 12 years, I already had a great network of my own, past colleagues and colleagues of the organization. And this helped me to collaborate, to find answers to some questions, to share best practices, and made me better day by day. When I came to Pune, I joined the Orbis School, and this was the turning point in my life. Along with teaching as a profession, I had one of the best mentors who helped me to set my foot into administration also. So I got into coordinatorship. I used to teach some classes and was also taking care of a group of staff members in the school. I learned how to organize myself and how to manage people who are connected to me directly, indirectly, and how to guide them. So from a primary coordinator to a secondary coordinator to a headmistress, and now as the head of the school, I think the journey has been really very enriching. And here I am today, heading to the school, Orbis School, Mundwa.
So wonderful journey with a lot of different experiences that you have gained throughout. So, and under your leadership, always have won two great awards, ma'am. So now we would like to know from you, what is the philosophy of the school and what makes the school very unique?
Yes, so these two awards that you named, there are many, many more. But if you actually ask me that what is the philosophy of the school, it is it's very simple. For us, we want to transform the journey of learning for our students into a celebration. So celebrate learning is our motto, and we want our children to be absolutely comfortable with themselves and not to take education as a stress. They should take it as part of their life, and they should look forward to learning and to come to school. So we do envision a movement of self-motivated achievers who questing in chosen fields, whichever fields they choose, whether it's science, it's arts, it's humanities, they should, just do their best. They should be comfortable with themselves and the society at large. We want them to be critical thinkers. We want them to be problem solvers. We want them to be empowered with 21st century skills and make them the global citizens. So that's what we look forward to. And it is indeed unique because we want them to be happy and celebrate the whole process of learning.
Yeah, when a child gets into school, he should look forward that I want to go to school, mom, and mom should not be like behind, parents should be running behind, get up, get ready, and they're like, no, I don't want to go. So they should actually celebrate learning and they should feel the urge to learn and become thinkers. That is a very beautiful philosophy of the school, and school is looking forward in creating all the students critical thinkers and developing life skills in them. So going ahead, ma'am, we are just talking about celebrating the learning and making the child happy by learning. So what according to you is the importance of emotional quotient, the EQ, in the overall development of a child?
I think if we talk about emotional quotient, it goes hand in hand. I mean, there's no one thing more important, whether intelligence is more important or emotions are more important. Both are equally important, but rather, EQ takes a higher stand because we being social beings, it is impossible to, live a happy life. We may survive, but to live a happy life, a child has to have a balance of emotions. So what we require now is that they should be aware of how they feel and how to tackle those feelings.
Right.
So unless they know that, they will not be able to gel in a group, they will not be teams person, they will not be empathetic. So it's okay, right from the childhood, right from when they are very young, it's the job of the parent and the teachers to validate their emotions, to let them know that it's all right to feel the way they are feeling, and to help them come out of that situation. So that will, in a way, teach them how to solve their own problems and how to tackle those feelings of fear or hatred or love or anger. And this will help them to make peace with themselves. And the moment we know that our emotional quotient is good and we are strong with our emotions, we become people's person. We learn to listen, we learn to collaborate, and we become leaders then. So it's very important that emotional quotient should be taken care of right from very early age. And we should, as parents and teachers, as I said, should validate their emotions and should help them to understand what's happening in their life. And it's all right that this is happening and they should learn to take their own decisions now.
Yeah, and especially given the current scenario, the COVID has emphasized on emotional quotient more because children are going a lot through. This was something came all of a sudden. No one was prepared. So even as you rightly said, we all should focus on developing the emotional quotient, and so has the situation brought us here today. So
right. And in fact, we've seen now that you're talking about the pandemic, this last 1 year has only been about mental well-being, right, whether it be for a child, a student, an adolescent, or a adult. So all of us felt the need. We may know our maths and science, but if we do not know how to handle our own lives, it's all useless. Yeah,
absolutely, ma'am. A very powerful message that we should learn to handle our own life and make our kids learn the same. We do
absolutely.
too much of hand holding. We should let them on their own. Let them take their decisions. Let
Correct.
them fight their odds and come out better citizens. So a great message from ma'am here. Going ahead, ma'am, we are just talking about COVID, ma'am. So what, according to you, how does the school should manage to make extracurricular activities a part of current virtual learning form? It's very difficult, but the innovation that has been seen by teachers, especially, they have become so creative. So what would be your ideas in adding extracurricular activities in virtual learning?
So, right, being a sports person myself, I would only look forward to extracurricular periods in my school. Maths and science, English and Hindi, we used to learn, and that is also very important. But a child look forward to all of these extracurricular periods, and they help them to focus. They help them to, maintain that balance, and you know, they have a goal to achieve, and once they get the taste of achieving goals, they do it in academics also. So it's very, very important, and that is why, last year when we started with our online teaching, the teething period, we were still learning how to handle the online platforms and interactive sessions. But in no time, I must say hats off to the humongous task that the teachers have done, that in no time they were as comfortable. They just took it in the stride. And it was not only sharing of board and using certain tools for quizzes and all. They started with videos, small videos. They were performers now. Initially, in the first month, we used to post those videos, whether it may be for games or like a fitness regime or a yoga session or some dance moves, some vocal training. And they were also about art and craft, and worksheets were shared with the children wherein step by step how to go about, how to draw, and from whatever they had at home, because we understood that it was a lockdown period. So we did not let the learning stop anywhere. So we started with these videos, but gradually as the year progressed, the teachers, as you said, they are magicians, and just they transformed the entire thing. And we started with our live classes, and the children are dancing with our teacher and the sports teacher, besides the normal things that we do like yoga or fitness regime or any kind of warming up exercise or something. They also started showing them some good matches, and they would talk about the do's and don'ts of the game. And actually children understood what a football match means or what a cricket match means. So they were not able to play on the field, but whatever best could be done. So that adaptability was there, and we made it as close to normal as possible. So it was actually a pleasure, Seema, when we conducted our online annual concert where 100% children of classes pre-primary to third, they all participated. And the concert was not just speaking, it was singing, it was dance, it was just like any other theatrical performance that we used to have every year. And to add on to the excitement of the children, we just floated some Google Forms, and we got their measurements and got lovely costumes stitched for our children, and we got it delivered, or the parents came to pick it up. It was absolutely not possible without the support of our parents of our school. So all three of us, parents, children and teachers, we made sure that our children did not miss much in the past 1 year, which was of course very difficult. And all of this also helped them to stay calm and feel that everything was okay and everything was normal, and stay connected with their peers.
Yeah, so these activities actually brought parents closer to teachers, to school, and they got more involved. So if every school decides that with the support of parents, teachers and students, I don't think there will be any activity that won't be able to be conducted online. So Definitely.
I completely agree with the fact. Actually, we consider ourselves as three vertices of a triangle. It's school, child, and the parent. And it's not just the activities. We've always got this support from our parents. And now, especially in this past 1 year and some 14 months, we have seen that people have come out big time to help us and appreciate. Their appreciation is actually very rewarding. Also, since they are part of those online teaching learning, sometimes they are around and they see, so now they are able to connect with us better. They know what goes into training of children. So we have a lot of help from our parent fraternity.
So finally, this triangle has intersected at all the points, and now it is going the way we wanted it to.
Absolutely, yes.
So going ahead, ma'am, as extracurricular activities is one of the things. So similarly, there are many subjects that are taught in the school, but what according to you are few subjects that could be added to the school syllabus, and what importance they would carry if they come in?
So frankly, if you ask me, I have been a teacher with the CBSE board, and I look at the NCERT curriculum day in and day out, and I know about the curriculum because ours is a senior secondary school, so we know about all the classes. If you ask me which subject should be added, I would like to comment here that our curriculum is already very, very comprehensive. So what we need to do is not to add a subject, we need to identify the subjects which are there as subsections of the main subjects. So if you talk about life skills, if you talk about mental well-being, if you talk about skill education, if you talk about any kind of skill that is required by the child, whether it be in performing arts or it be in visual arts, everything is there in our curriculum. What we need to do is not include a subject. We should focus more on the subject. And it should be the duty of a teacher, like we are duty bound to plan our lessons in such a way that all these subjects, all of them, whether they are life skills, value education, whatever it is imbibed in our curriculum. It is there in our class. We don't need an extra period for that. So whether it be the intelligence, whether it be emotions, whether it be any skills, for example, we have work education in our curriculum, which is a wonderful subject for skill education, skill-based education. So if only we were to focus on what is already there in our curriculum, I think that will make a big change. So obviously in the past few years, artificial intelligence and robotics, these have been very good subjects, new subjects that have cropped up. But I feel that all of these subjects, along with the life skills and value education, should be incorporated in our main subject. And that is what is, an integrated way of teaching also. And that helps to involve every student of the class.
Right.
Work as per their competencies. So yes, I would say that subjects exist. It is for us to focus on the subsections of these subjects, which are directly or indirectly helping a child to grow as a better human being. It's not just the academics.
Wonderfully explained by you, ma'am, that everything is there. We overlook it at times and we don't emphasize on the importance of that. So all is needed is to just focus and bring it out.
Right.
So this brings to me to the next section, ma'am. So like you said, there are many accomplishments for the schools and for you. So which is the accomplishment you are most proud of?
So when I talk about my own accomplishments, I'm reminded of that African word Ubuntu. It is who I am because the whole team is about what we all are together. So yeah, there's been a lot of ups and downs, and we've but more ups than downs, and we have accomplished a lot. But as a team, like it was always another feather in the cap of Team Orbis, has brought in a lot of happiness and joy to me, and my heart swells with pride when I see this school, which was at an infant stage when I joined, to become a young adult now. So I have grown with the school. I have seen school achieving in the fields of scholastics, co-scholastics, talk about international dimensions, and basically, a very happy atmosphere in schools. When I look at all of this and the number of awards that the school is winning, it's an accomplishment in itself, it's an achievement in itself. And I firmly believe that for teachers, we don't deal with data and files, we deal with lives. So we are touching lives every day, and with every single student of our achieving something or the other in every period in the school, it is a big achievement for us. So we can't explain that joy of seeing them grow, seeing them bloom, and seeing, when they do well, it is every day is a new day for us, and it brings in a lot of joy. So yes, lots of achievements, lots of accomplishments, but we know that the journey is not so easy ahead, and there's lots and lots that needs to be still done. And in the words of Robert Frost, I would say there are miles to go.
Yeah, certainly, ma'am. There are miles to go, and we wish you all the best for all the endeavors. And you rightly said, there is no other joy than seeing your students bloom for a teacher and the school growing under your leadership. It gives you that satisfaction that the work I'm doing day and night is growing, and along with me, so many children, so many lives are taking shape.
That's
So
true.
no wonder that has to be the perfect accomplishment for a leader like you. So this brings to me to the very interesting segment of the show, which is called rapid fire round.
Oh,
You
wow.
have to answer in one word only.
Okay, all right.
So here goes your first question. Name a particular skill which you would like to impart to all your students.
Self-learning.
Brilliant. Next question. Name a school principal you admire the most.
Mrs. Mala Jetli. Adding another word, she was my mentor.
Great. Going ahead, what is the right form of education? One model for all or individualized learning?
It has to be individualized.
All right. What do children need more of today? Parent, teacher, mentor, or a friend?
Mentor. They need a mentor.
All right. What, according to you, is the optimal student-teacher ratio in a classroom to achieve the targeted teaching?
1:30.
All right. Describe your leadership style in one word.
Democratic.
Democratic. Great. Brilliant answers, ma'am. Beautifully answered this segment. Now, going ahead, ma'am, we saw you on professional front, how you are so involved with your work and you're so contented with this, the way the school is growing. Now, what do you do when you're not working? What are your hobbies or sports you are involved into? And you are a sports person.
Yeah, I used to be an athlete, and but now it is used to be an athlete. So that has taught me discipline, obviously. I do read lots. I enjoy reading, and I feel that it's a great way of calming myself. It helps me to transform myself into another world. Books are great companions. Um, I am also trained as a classical dancer. I used to do Kathak, and I still love dancing. So that is also one of my hobbies. And all of these skills, sports and dance, all of this actually we know helps us not only to keep ourselves physically fit, but mentally healthy and happy also. I used to love debating, and of course, the reading would complement that. And debating was one thing. Like I was a district debater when I was in college, and that all of that helped me to articulate my thoughts, to see the flip side of the situation, and also, to understand how to convince people. And today here I am. That's my job. When I said I have a democratic setup, so it is like either you convince me or I convince you. So all of these skills, I feel, whether it is any hobby that we have, it definitely helps in building us as a person, what we are. So it really, really helps. Yeah.
So we have a multi-talented person here. She's not only an athlete, she's a classical dancer, an avid reader, a debater with great communication skill and an excellent leader. So we are really privileged to have you here, ma'am. And on this note, we come to the last question of the show, which is called Viewer's Choice question, ma'am. How do you think learning will change when school reopen after the pandemic?
The schools, I feel, Seema, will not reopen. They will have to reinvent themselves. So the traditional method of teaching and learning has not gone anywhere. That is also there. It will stay. And whatever we have learned in these 14 months, that has actually added another flavor to our teaching. Something that we were longing to do for years, to break the normal trend of teaching, learning, and go into experiential learning and reach out to every child and be able to customize programs. All of that we were able to do with online teaching that we've done in 14 months. So what I feel now is, going ahead, hybrid teaching will be the way forward. And the task of a teacher will not only be a guide by the side, it will also like a mentor, but also a counselor. So initially, the teething is going to be very difficult. We will need to understand the needs, emotional needs of a child. We will need to bridge the gap in academics. We might need, because although we're doing our best and we are able to reach out to every child and the assessments are going as they used to happen with a little bit of adaptation of online, but still that physical presence will give us the actual real picture of what has gone behind the scenes. So yes, it is going to be challenging, but not impossible. If we could survive, and we could do so well when we were just thrown into a sea of online teaching and learning, now we are mentally prepared and better prepared with all the workshops and trainings of our teachers, that we are definitely going to make the hybrid teaching also very successful. And I think that is the only way to go forward, that whatever learnings we have from our past, they will be there with us to stay, and we will only improve ourselves to become better educators. So I think schools will evolve. They will be better than what they were a year back. And there will be a lot of change, both in the way of working and the style of students adapting to us. So all of that will change, but nevertheless, I think together we all will make it happen, and it is going to be a good change for good.
Yeah, so a very positive statement by ma'am here, that COVID did had taken the entire education system on a turmoil, but it do have positive impact. What we were all looking forward to, reinventing the schooling, making it more personalized, making it more connected, making it more learning, more personalized experience for students, and taking the emotional question, taking care of that. So very, very positively, ma'am has taken this change. And according to you, ma'am, as you rightly said, I think all the schools will have this positive impacts in them, and they will reinvent, and we will see the much needed change that we all were looking forward into our schools.
That's true. That's absolutely true. We were looking forward to all of this.
Yeah, and finally we got a boom from pandemic that hit started now.
And so it is always, even in difficult times, we tell our children, but that holds true for us also, that although it was a very difficult time for anybody, but we looked at it as an opportunity to move ahead, to plan things differently, think out of the box, and make everything happen. So that was one good thing that the schools and teachers have done. Yeah.
So when one door closed, many more doors of a lot of enlightenment did open. So and definitely a big hats off, a big thank you to all the teachers. They really worked very hard and got used to something they were always very apprehensive of. So a great learning experience for all of us in this. And it was a wonderful session, ma'am, here with you. We got a lot of insights, and I'm sure my viewers are going to get a lot of benefit from it. So thank you so much, ma'am. It was really very delightful to have you here.
Thank you so much, Seema. Thank you for having me with you. It was wonderful speaking to you. Thank you.